This is the Ecofeminist Podcast. I'm your host, Ellen Hugema. Ecofeminism is a movement that applies feminist principles to ecological issues. We are set out to debunk the myth that feminism is for females only, and that environmental issues are something we are just going to have to accept. The people I interview here are social changemakers making an impact in the world. These changes can be big or small, and all changes in any shape or form matter, whether they are inspired by businesses, people, or nonprofits. Thank you so much for listening. Welcome to another episode of the Ecofeminist Podcast. Today's guest is from the Netherlands, where I am based as well, and her name is Mariah Mansvelt. She is the founder of Yoni, which is an organic tampon company, and the mission of Yoni is to bring organic tampons to everyone, and that such intimate products should have their ingredients listed on the packaging because it's the most absorbent area of your whole body. Why don't we have a right to know what's in them? So that's the mission of Yoni, and when I moved back to the Netherlands from Portugal after a couple of years and came back to the real world where things were actually happening, Yoni is one of the things I stumbled upon, and I was quite amazed by the branding and the mission and vision. And Yoni is also based in the Impact Hub in Amsterdam, where I also work every now and then. So yeah, we got into contact and super excited to have this interview, and she has so much good stuff to share with all of us, not just based on running a business, but also kind of like running your life. So Mariah has gems to share, and I love how she is sort of just seized this opportunity, saw this need for something in the marketplace that every woman should have access to, and that's her mission. And I must say she's doing pretty good. They are doing pretty good. She's the co-founder. And yeah, I hope you like this episode as much as I do. Let me know what you think afterwards, and yeah, enjoy. So Mariah, welcome to the show.
Thanks, nice to be here.
It's so great to have you. So I like to start at the beginning to get to know you a little bit better, and for our listeners to get to know you a little bit better. So before Yoni, what's your background? What were you doing? And tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am half American and half Dutch. Oh, cool. We've immediately connected on that. My dad is Dutch and my mom's American. And so we moved here when I was about 10. And that's also when I learned to speak Dutch. So Dutch is always kind of my second language. And what to tell you and where to start. I guess I'll start kind of with my career, so to speak. And so I obviously was not dreaming of owning a tampon company. That's just not a little girl's dream. And I started working with Doctors Without Borders. And I worked with them for about 7 years in the headquarters here in Amsterdam, as well as in the field in South Sudan. And I thought at the time that I would love to have this field career where I'd be traveling and helping people who are in the most dire of situations. I think the humanitarian help that Doctors Without Borders provides is amazing. So I was really excited to be part of their mission to save lives and alleviate suffering. But when I was in South Sudan, I found out that it probably wasn't going to be my lifetime career, since after so many months into my mission, I had 8 rounds of antibiotics within 2 months. And you just understand that that's not something that you're going to be able to do that often in your life and remain healthy. So I'm not the kind of person who has a super strong immune system. And I also noticed, looking around me at colleagues who had been in the field for longer than me, that they didn't really receive any emails from friends or family anymore, because there's a disconnect, because the situations you are in are so extreme and quite different from an at-home experience. And I realized that I probably would be the kind of person who would really miss that and would eventually just become kind of a bit traumatized. I think I'm too sensitive. So I made the decision that that wasn't going to be my lifelong career, and didn't really know what I was going to do next. And started talking to a lot of people and made a change and became a social worker here in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam actually. And so I was on my bike, so I wanted to kind of get out of the office, and was mostly on my bike on the outskirts of Amsterdam. And my clients were people who basically were mentally challenged, so quite a low IQ, and often had psychiatric problems. So I had mothers with borderline whose children had been taken out of the house, and then I was kind of like the in-between person between the caregivers to the children, the mother, all the kind of government bodies that she had to deal with. So really people who were on the outskirts of society, which was also really interesting. I got to figure out a lot of things that I'd never known about Amsterdam. I saw a whole complete different Amsterdam and a lot of really sad things. Uh, mm. But yet again, I didn't feel like I wasn't fulfilling my purpose. And at the same time, kind of in between all of this, I was confronted with my own health. So I already mentioned that I don't have the best of immune systems, and that kind of has a little bit to do with when I was 30. Here in the Netherlands, you always are asked to go in for a checkup. I went into it for the checkup, and I found out that I was developing cervical cancer. So luckily, it was still in developmental stages. And cervical cancer is, as far as everybody understands, triggered by the HPV virus. And that does have a link to your immune system. So if your immune system is just in general weaker, you're unable to clear that virus, whereas most people are able to clear it themselves. And I was having troubles clearing it, and was in a stage where I was going to have a couple of, at the end, an operation. And so when you're 30, and I was really healthy and conscious about a lot of my life choices, it's a confronting situation and made me really rethink what I was doing and what I wanted to do. And at the same time, I'd already become, or I think maybe a little bit before then, not sure on the timeline, I also had become a yoga teacher. Somewhere like after I had heard that I was having cervical cancer, I was asking doctors, what can I do to support my health? And I think in the Netherlands, and I don't know, maybe from your experience, you've had the same, but in America, doctors are a little bit more willing to provide kind of holistic advice on what to do to support your health. And here in the Netherlands, I feel that they're very rigid and will only tell you kind of what the protocol says. So that was really frustrating to me. But finally, I met a doctor, and she said that one of her advices to me was to start using organic cotton tampons and pads to prevent further irritation. And so for 2 years, kind of while I was being a social worker and a yoga teacher, this was just something totally personal. But one Sunday afternoon, I had to bike like through the rain to the one organic store that was open on that Sunday in Amsterdam to get my special organic cotton tampons. And I thought to myself, why can I not just buy these in any other supermarket or my drugstore next to my house? And that afternoon, I went to see my friend, and I started talking about this, and she said, well, what are normal tampons made from? Aren't they just made of cotton anyway? So what's so special about your organic cotton ones? And we started to look at the packaging of the tampons and pads that she had at her house. And we noticed then for the first time that on the packaging of these products, there was no list of ingredients. And we thought, well, damn, for any other product, whether it's your toothpaste, your hand wash, your any care product, basically, you can know what the product is made from. You might not totally understand it, but there is a list of ingredients on the packaging. And for this really intimate products that we use in one of the most absorbent parts of our body, there's no list of ingredients. And that sparked off the business that we founded together, Wendelin and I, which is now known as Yoni. And at that Sunday afternoon, we basically formulated what we still do today. So we said, okay, we not only wanted to share the story, but we also want to offer this choice. And we not only want to offer the choice, but we want to share the story. So these two things, we want to share the story so that every woman knows that this is a product that you can be conscious about. And at the same time, we want to make sure that it's on every shelf so that it's actually available. Because if it's not really available, you don't really have the choice. Because I personally every time I was at the airport or I was at my parents' house who don't live in the middle of the city, I couldn't find my special store for my special tampons. And that's what we felt really needed to change.
And it is changing. I see it everywhere nowadays. So how
Yay!
did you settle on the name Yoni?
What?
How did you settle on the name Yoni?
Oh, well, Yoni means origin of life, as well as vagina. And when we were kind of thinking of the name, the URL care came free. So we're not like a yoni.nl or a yoni.com, but we're yoni.care, and Yoni care is exactly what we do. So like it became full circle.
Yeah, beautiful. And is it Sanskrit, Yoni, or?
Yeah, it's Sanskrit. Yeah.
Okay. Also, maybe has something to do with your yoga background. I was assuming maybe. So when you decided upon the name and you had this idea, okay, organic tampons, this needs to be everywhere. What's the first thing you did?
Well, the first thing Wendeline and I did was to do some research to figure out what was going on, and if there was not a brand we could maybe, lift up, or if, to kind of, you don't just day one say, okay, here we go, or at least we didn't. So we spent probably 3 months in the evenings and in the weekends, yeah, just exploring whether there would be a business plan, what was going on, who was doing what, were there any lobby organizations, just kind of figuring things out. And we came to the conclusion that it was definitely not going to be easy because it's a fast-moving consumer good product. I mean, there are 4 huge companies that dominate the entire worldwide feminine hygiene market. So for the two of us to be like, okay, we're going to make a dent, that was definitely not easy, not going to be easy. But we decided that the time was right. And that if nobody, like, that's kind of the way I feel about life in general. If you see something that's not like going the right way, and nobody's doing anything about it, then, well, maybe you should do something about it. So we decided that it was worth going for it. If we were going to go for it, then we wanted to go for it like full on. So we both set off our jobs, and I continued to kind of teach yoga in the evenings and the weekends so that I could still pay my rent, because it takes a while before you make any money. And we went for it.
Very cool. So I'm also wondering, what is in the tampons, the regular ones that are in the stores, the conventional brands? What's in them? What do we not want in them?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't make them, and it's not disclosed, so I don't exactly know what they're made of. And that's pretty much our point. I want to be able to know what I eat, what I put on my face, and definitely what I use in my vagina or near my vagina. But most regular tampons are made from rayon. So that's a synthetic material, and have generally a layer of plastic over it. And that's kind of that silk touch that feels so soft. But if you, and I had never done this before, but if you then take the tampon and try to like open it up, kind of dissect your tampon, you'll notice that there's actually a plastic layer around a lot of them. And that is, on the one hand, to make sure that the liquid goes in but doesn't go out. And the other hand, it's to keep the viscose together, because viscose has a very short strand, whereas cotton naturally has a long thread kind of, and viscose is really short, so it needs to keep it together. And you see a difference if you put like a synthetic rayon tampon or a cotton tampon in water for like a couple of hours. The viscose tampon will kind of start shedding much earlier on. So those are things that I would just like to know as a consumer, and I feel like everyone has the right to know. And then with pads, I mean, some pads and even maybe some tampons, although I don't think it's generally done, can be that perfume can be added. You can sometimes smell that really strongly on certain like panty liners or pads. And some have these super absorbent pearls, which is obviously chemical within them to strengthen the absorption.
Yeah, and bleach, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Not sure.
I think bleach was definitely something that was used in the past a lot, and I think there has been some cut down on the use of bleach. But yeah, you don't know because it's
Yeah.
not being disclosed.
And what's in the Yoni tampons?
So our tampons are made of organic cotton. The
Just
thread
organic
is made
cotton.
of organic cotton.
So
So it's
that's
really,
100% organic cotton.
yeah.
Cool. Um, so how are you going about education? So we're talking about this, and we don't know what's in the what are the ingredients of the conventional tampons. So I assume because you've taken on this sort of bigger role and want the organic tampons to be everywhere, so education is a big part of it because people just don't know, like you found out in the way you found out, and I assume so. That's my question. Like, how are you going about education, and how big a part is that of your business?
Well, I mean, to do what we want to do, to be on every shelf, so that there's a choice and diversity in product, and a transparent product that you can choose from. Um, Telling and talking about menstruation and menstruation management, as you could call it, but the difference in tampons and pads and those kind of things is really, really important. So, I mean, I think it's one of the biggest things that we do is telling the story and sharing the story in this way, this kind of way, like we're doing right now in interviews. I do a lot of talks, but we are also really active on social media, and we try to do it in a creative way and with a little bit of tongue in cheek, and a little bit of humor. And I mean, immediately Wendelin and I saw that there was a huge opportunity to start communicating about menstruation and about tampons and pads differently than had been done up till now. And up till now, I think a lot of the advertising, and the way that we speak about menstruation is medicalized. I mean, even feminine hygiene or sanitary pads is really focusing on it not being, or giving you the feeling that it's not hygienic, that there's something medical about it. Whereas I think we need to move towards a place where we're just a normal subject, so we normalize it. And I think we aim to do that kind of in a creative way. And we have a very, I think, strong visual identity. We've worked with some amazing creatives who have found really fun ways of visualizing menstruation or tampons and pads, the story, in a way that I think a lot of women appreciate.
Yeah.
You don't have to see like advertisements of women running around in white leggings and pouring blue fluids on pads. I mean, I don't know who came up with that, but that's been the norm.
Yeah, definitely. Why blue?
Yeah.
Why? Okay, very cool. So recently you had the female, I think was it called Female Changemakers Month? Was it month?
Yeah, it was based on International Women's Day, and
Women's
we
Day.
kind of extended it for the month.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about that? What was the goal behind it, and what was it about?
um, well, I think and it wasn't maybe something that we realized immediately when we started Yoni, but what we were doing, telling a story about menstruation, and I don't know how many times, like, to get up in front of like groups of old men and start talking about vaginas and menstruation, and making people maybe feel slightly uncomfortable. But actually, when I just tell the story like I just did, not anyone really feels uncomfortable with that. And all men have women in their lives that they love, and most men have really never thought about it, given any thought, and are quite shocked when they hear and realize that for such a product that almost all women around us are using, there's so little disclosure to consumers. Um, but there is something, I think, even the word taboo, I think it's derived from the Polynesian language, and it also means, in the Polynesian language, it means menstruation as well. So menstruation has been a taboo for as long as we can remember, in almost all major religions, there is some sort of taboo around it, and there are some restrictions placed on women when they're menstruating, that they can't completely participate or these types of things. And even today in the Netherlands, where we're quite open about everything, it's not a subject that's spoken about that often, and that has been changing, I feel. Um, so once you kind of start talking about this, it also has, in a way, to do with female empowerment, and I think it's something that is really topical at the moment about female leadership, and that doesn't mean that females all need to be in leadership positions. It means kind of the feminine within all of us, men and women, and how we provide the space for these feminine qualities that definitely, I think, are needed here when there's so much polarization. I think the feminine has the ability to connect and to look at things in a more holistic way, and that it's very limiting to look at things like in a kind of single focus way. And so for International Women's Day, we've always, always, for the past 2 years, we've used our platform that we've, kind of the community that we've built up with Yoni, as a place to put women who have done something, who are in some way kind of in a leadership position in their own field of expertise, and have provided them a platform to just kind of talk about what they've done, why they've done it, kind of tell their story, as well as to share how they feel female leadership can play a positive role in society nowadays, and hopefully to inspire other women. I think a lot of younger, I mean, I was always looking for role models. I still look for role models, and sometimes they're difficult to find or to see. And so to make that more visible, and to to provide some diversity.
Love what you said, especially about the importance of having the feminine in the world, and it not just being women, but being the feminine in everyone.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I
just a
mean,
balance we
that's the
need.
whole thing. Like, feminist doesn't mean like
Yeah.
it's not only women can be feminists, men can be feminists too. It's all about equality,
Yeah.
and that and at this point of time, there just is inequality between men and women,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah, and the world will be a better place for men and women.
yeah,
Everyone will benefit from it, seriously.
yeah.
It's just balance is beautiful. Um okay, so just a question about the sourcing of the tampons. So where do you, when you started Yoni, where did you were like, okay, so where do I find all this cotton? That must
Yeah.
have been a difficult.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's not a unique product. It was already being made. It was just not being talked about, and not being, the marketing wasn't being done very well,
Oh yeah.
if I may
Yeah, yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
interject.
I've seen the boxes.
And so we didn't have to like invent an organic cotton tampon. They were already being made. We just need to figure out where they were being made and how we could get our hands on a certified organic product. And so that's what we went and looked for. We looked for companies that were already making certified organic products. And so we get organic cotton tampons from Germany, and we got our organic cotton pads and panty liners in Italy. And we wanted to do a few things. We felt like it would be a better move, a more sustainable move, to source from within Europe, so closer to home, preferably. There are no tampon machines or pad and panty liner machines in the Netherlands, as far as I know. And so we chose Europe over like sourcing from Asia, where it would have been more difficult for me and Wendeline to build up a relationship, to actually go and see the factories and those kind of things, as well as from a sustainability, environmental point of view. It's not very sustainable to go all the way, like have your tampon sent to you all the way
Yeah.
from Asia somewhere. And so that's what we
So this sounds like it
I mean,
wasn't
that
that
took a lot
difficult.
of quite a bit of time to
It did
figure out.
take, yeah, yeah. Um, so that leads me to another question. So how important is sustainability for Yoni? Because the message is all about women and knowing what's in the tampons and all of that. But I think sustainability is quite a big aspect of it as well. Can you talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
no, well, I'm really proud because just a couple of weeks ago, we officially became a B Corp,
Oh, wow,
which is a
cool.
benefit corporation. And
Congratulations.
for those people who don't know, and in the Netherlands, for example, like well-known B Corps might be Tony's or Dopper, the water bottles, or Patagonia. And I think at the moment there are over 2,000 B Corps in the world. And what is cool about the B Corp certification is that it looks at all aspects of your business. So they look at what do you use, like what kind of cleaning products do you use in your office, to how do you treat your employees, to what is how environmentally friendly are your production processes. I mean, everything they review. It took also quite a long time to get through this whole questionnaire kind of thing that you have to go through, and then you have these interviews, because I mean, there are very large companies like Danone, for example, who are going through these processes, and there are super small businesses, and it can be an accountancy to someone who's making cookies to Patagonia who's making clothes. I mean, so any business can become B Corp. So the questions are very generic and not always tailored to what you're doing. So then there are interviews where they and go further into your own business and your impact and that kind of thing. And for us, I think that was the kind of slogan of the B Corp community is using business for a force for as a force for good. And for me, that's the only way I would want to do business. And I think that's the only way that we should be doing business, really. And it's the way forwards. And for me, this is really exciting. And I never personally thought I would be in business. I thought I'd be doing something more like, well, I was in humanitarian work,
Yeah.
and then I was doing social work, and I'm a yoga teacher, spiritual work. I was not very interested and didn't think after I had studied international development that I was going to be doing something commercial. Because for me, that meant focusing on profit making only, which is very hollow and doesn't seem very useful at all. Um, um, but I must say, I think it's a really exciting movement to use business in a way where you're working on societal problems, and where you can contribute to the world. Yeah, so that's something really exciting. I think sustainability is really important. In business, I've learned that you also need to be pragmatic. So we don't always choose the most sustainable option, but we aim to try to choose the more sustainable options. And sustainability for me is not only about environmentally friendly, but is wider than that. So, for example, for me, it means that when we have these little sample cards and they need to get filled. So we work with in Dutch you call it the sociale werkplaats. So somewhere where people who don't have normal opportunities on the job market, where they are provided work. And so we use them to fill our tampon samples. And for me, this is something really a nice that we can do that. And falls under the way that I view sustainability and setting up a sustainable company.
Yeah. More holistic. I really love that. Very cool. Another question, where is it currently sold actually? Because I know I'm obviously in the Netherlands as well, and I know it's in the Netherlands, but are you also in the rest of Europe? And do you have plans to take on the world?
Working on it. So in the Netherlands, we're sold in the Albertijn and the Eetels as our main places of sale, and marked with a Q for those people in the cities. In Belgium, we're also sold at the Albertijn, and in some more concept stores. And We're in discussions with Deleuze at the moment, so I'm hoping that will be widely available soon. Then in Luxembourg, we're available in one of the largest supermarkets, Cocteau. And Luxembourg is a very small country, but and we are in discussions with some French chains at the moment. So France is definitely somewhere we'll be going. We launched recently with Planet Organic in the UK. So that's a nice, I think, kind of similar store to Marked with a Q here in the Netherlands. And we're available in a few stores in Germany and via our web shop, definitely in Germany, the UK, Belgium.
And do you plan on ever adding any other products? So do you feel like you would branch out in other feminine hygiene
Yes.
departments?
So we're looking to incontinence pads and panty liners. Because we see that women, I mean, it's kind of the same, it's very similar products, similar problems. But if you need an incontinence product, then you're using that almost every day. And so if you're sensitive to synthetic materials or perfumes or those kind of things, then you have a definite problem. And so we receive a lot of questions from women asking us to help them with an organic cotton incontinence product. So that's something we're looking to be launching this fall.
Ooh. Nice.
Also a taboo subject, so.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And also something, okay, you're incontinent, sucks. And then you're also itching down there.
Yeah, no, like, it's a double suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So in 2014, Yoni was founded, right? So can you talk a little bit about where you were then, where you are now, and where do you think you'll be in about 5 years?
Yeah. I mean, we started our crowdfunding in 2014. So 2014 is when we set up. We started really in 2013, thinking about the idea, saying off our jobs. We did the TEDx Amsterdam Award in 2013 and ended up on TEDx Amsterdam Women's Stage, telling our story. So there was a lot of kind of like boost and ideation phase going on in 2013. And then in 2014, we were really setting the foundation. So we set up our company. We got our first kind of got our financial stuff sorted out for the first bit. We came up with a brand, with the packaging, and then we started a crowdfunding October 2014, really to share the story with people for the first time. And while we were sharing the story, people could already pre-order the product. So we hadn't made the product yet, but they could pre-order it. And then right before Christmas 2014, our crowdfunding had been successful. We had turned on production. And right before Christmas, we received all our first products and could send them out, our packages, to our first crowdfunding fans. And then in 2015, we started sales. So for quite a while, it was kind of like me and Wendeline. And then a year later, we added on Ellen, who's like our office manager at the time, to help us so that Wendeline and I wouldn't just be drowning in day-to-day business, which was basically happening at that time, because everything just like more and more and more, and it's ongoing. And so we could continue to focus on building the business. And if you look from that point, and then now I think we're with about 7 employees. There's a number of interns always working with us. We have a number of freelancers that have been with us for a while. So I think if I put everybody in the room together, kind of like what we would consider our team at the moment, it's probably like around 14 people. We have, I think, about 4 vacancies that are already out or going to be coming out later. So we're really building up the team, and I feel like we've also are starting to have a more international focus. So we've taken on Julia, for example, who is a fantastic French lady who's been living in the Netherlands for a while, to help with business development, focusing obviously on France and the Benelux. Yeah. So, I mean, so many things have changed.
Yeah.
Really from like startup to, yeah, slowly scaling up. And at the moment, really looking to, I mean, at first you're just doing everything for the first time. And now, and it was just like me and Wendeline doing everything for the first time. And we always would like look at each other and be like, I have to tell you something. I've never done this before. But now we're taking on experts, people who have done it before and who are kind of taking our work and yeah, professionalizing it basically and making sure that it's not like this just, oh, I've done it once, but something that can be done again.
Yeah, very cool. And in the future, 5 years, maybe?
In 5 years' time, well, I mean, our aim really is that you can find Yoni on every shelf next to the synthetic option, that all women know that there are choices to be made when it comes down to their tampons and pads, and that they're organic cotton products and that they can find them on every shelf. So really that spreading the story, offering the choice, and that's been brought to a much like a mainstream wide scale sense, and not only here in the Netherlands, but in Europe,
Very cool.
the
And
world.
the world, yeah, world
Maybe
domination.
not 5 years, but
Yeah. Um, and you also talked a little bit about being a yoga teacher and you're a mother as well. So how did you do all of this? Do you consider your business being a part of your life? Are you able to like, okay, tend to your children at that point, tend to your work, and then just sort of mix it all in together? Or do you, like, how do you manage it all?
well, I can tell you one thing, and you have kids, right?
Yeah, one, yeah.
Yeah. So I have a 3-year-old daughter. There is no way that I can do work and be with my daughter.
Thank you. Thank you.
There is no way. Like
No, I try
the
all the time.
moment I even want to send like a WhatsApp and she is around, that already is a freaking challenge. And I experience that as something as sometimes really frustrating, but in principle as a blessing,
Yeah.
because it definitely requires me to be super efficient. When I'm at work, I'm working. Like I'm not laughing around. No, I'm working because I know the moment I get home, I'm not working because
Yeah.
there's someone who wants 100% of mommy's attention and who deserves that attention. So when I'm
Yeah.
at home and she's there, then I'm with her completely. I'm a co-parent, so I don't have my daughter every single day. So 3 days a week, she's with her father. And that means that I do have some more flexibility. And it also means that when I'm at home and she's with me, then it really is just me and her. And that's really, really full on. Um, yeah, so this has been, and it continues to be like a constant challenge in finding balance and finding the right balance. And I think, I think that will continue to be that way for a while. And I notice like now I've kind of gotten the routine down, but the moment something kind of changes, then sometimes then I can really feel stressed about it. Like there's so many things that you have to think about, like, oh, I have to call the babysitter and I have to do that, and I have to do that, and then also work. Like,
Also
ah,
changes, also growing, bigger team.
yeah, but yeah, I also have figured out in the past like year or so, whenever I feel a little bit out of control with like not being on top of things with the business, I've noticed that it generally takes me between 1 and 2 hours to get back in the feeling of control. And those 1 and 2 hours can always wait until after the weekend. And if they can't, like if it really is something that can't wait, then I'll do it in that evening or whatever. But I try to know now from experience that yeah, it's gonna be just like, yeah, those couple of hours, and so that can generally wait.
Yeah. And yoga, are you able to do yoga still?
Yeah, no, I just added on a yoga class. I teach
Yes.
yoga again. I
Oh,
was
really?
out
Cool.
for 3 years or more. And it was not a rational decision to add on teaching yoga to my schedule. But it was the right decision because it gives me so much focus and I really missed it. Um, yeah, I think kind of like what I get with my child, but then different because it's it's different. I don't have to play like imaginary games when I'm at teaching yoga. Something that doesn't necessarily give me tons of energy. But when I teach yoga, unlike when I go to a yoga class, I can still mentally like check in and out so many times. But when I am teaching yoga, I'm fully focused because there are people in front of me that are holding me accountable. And doing that for like 1.5 hours, I think it's like the most focused I can get. And afterwards, generally have a lot of good ideas. I feel completely refreshed. I'll be way more creative. It actually provides me more space. And I have continued to realize that sometimes actually taking time to do something when you have a really busy schedule and carving time out for your yoga practice or to teach yoga or whatever it is for you, it actually buys you time because you become just much more effective and you see the priorities and you understand what you need to do. And a lot of like, if I have to give a speech or something, I mean, I never think of what I'm going to say while I'm in the office. I always do it when I'm on my bike, or I have to be in a kind of more creative mode or headspace. And I get that a lot faster if I just take a little bit of time out.
Yeah. Yeah, I have the same cycle. Sometimes I sort of like, no, it's a waste of time. Can't do this. And then I realize, oh my God, I'm actually losing time and you're not giving yourself the love and care you need. And then I'm back on the every morning yoga. And yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to relearn it. So do you think, let's just phrase this question for the Netherlands, do you think ever menstruation and feminine issues will not be a taboo?
Well, of course. I think we're always evolving. And if you look at where we've come from and in how much time that's been, and obviously, like if you take it a little bit, like voting, women in the Netherlands weren't allowed to vote. How many years ago was that?
Not that long ago.
Yeah, not that long ago. And I mean, now it's like the most normal thing in the world. So yeah, I think everything has the ability to change as long as, and I do feel like there's been a lot of change in like speaking about menstruation, etc. In the past, like since 2015 or so. So there's tons of possibility. Just there needs to be some sort of movement to go along and to bring it there to change, to make it change.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's part of what your mission is.
Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, obstacles are usually opportunities as well. That's a good way to think of them. So can you share a few obstacles, opportunities you've encountered since starting Yoni, and how did you overcome?
No, I always say that I have to laugh because I had this intern and she had to write a probleemstelling. So like she had to write her problem or whatever. And I said, and I just had I'm like, I'm sorry, but Yoni doesn't have any problems. We have challenges, but there are no problems.
Yeah.
Like I don't think in problems. They're just challenges. And so yeah, there are tons of challenges, and a lot of the challenges you don't you don't have foresight in, like you don't before setting up a company or whatever. I'm like, I never had made a website, so I didn't know that was going to be really sucky. And I didn't know that once we built the one website, which took a lot of time, that quite soon thereafter you can already start building your next website, and that would be even more like sucky. So you just don't know these things beforehand. It's really good because otherwise you never start. And there are so many examples of that. And then there are like these other challenges, like how do you make, like, okay, we want all women should be able to know that their choices when it comes to their tampons and pads. I mean, how do you reach all women with your message? Nobody knows the answer to that question. Marketing is something like, I don't even know what it means really. I mean, there are no clear-cut answers, and that makes it interesting as well.
Yeah, exactly. And lastly, what is some piece of advice that you've received from either a mentor or someone important to you in the past that is something that you live by in your either day-to-day life or your business?
Okay, so this is something new. And it's from a book that I read recently. It's called The Big Leap. I would really recommend everyone to read it.
Gay Hendricks, I think, right?
The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks is the writer's name. And it's about a lot of things. It's about basically how we limit ourselves because everyone has kind of like this ability to experience so much positive emotion in your life. And that we limit ourselves the amount of positive emotion that we allow. And so often you'll see people and that limits ourselves in how we function. So we often stay in our like zone of maybe excellence, but not in our zone of genius. And we ourselves are the limiting factor in that. And so becoming more and more self-aware of who you are, how you work, how you limit yourself, is going to make you be more and more the better. Yeah, you're going to become a better human, basically. So I definitely am a firm believer of self-development, and to take time for introspection, self-reflection, and to surround yourself with people and moments where you receive that feedback. So I don't understand people who don't have like coaches or psychologists, or I don't know, whatever you want to call them. But for me, especially if you have a daughter and like a busy life, I have to have these kind of moments because they just allow me to take bigger steps in my own self-development much faster than I would ever be able to do alone, and maybe go take steps that I wouldn't be able to do on my own. But one of the most interesting and really practical points of advice in this book is about Einstein time, and just making the realization, I think everybody does it, almost everybody does it that has like kind of a busy lifestyle. You complain like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. And he said, wait 1 second. Whenever you see yourself complaining about time, it's the same as saying she did it. His fault, their fault, because you are the source of time. You're not taking responsibility for something in your life. And so you make the choices of where you're placing your time and your focus. And so to go on a complaint-free diet, I would suggest that to everybody.
Yes.
Complaint-free diet and taking full responsibility for what you choose to put your focus on and to use your time on.
Yeah.
And it's really liberating and really fascinating also, because you see yourself like wanting to complain about it and then like, oh no, wait 1 second. That's my choice.
Yeah.
I'm the source of
so
time.
powerful and so true, because time is, we kind of made it up as well, didn't we, humans?
Yeah.
It's a made up concept. All you have is right now.
Yeah.
And
Well,
when you
and
complain,
we go into that, also a very interesting book that I would suggest to everyone a little bit interested in the spiritual and kind of the and then the more scientific view on spirituality, like quantum physics, is Becoming Supernatural.
Oh, by Joe Dispenza.
Yeah, Joe
God, I
Dispenza,
love him
and
so
he really talks about this as time as a concept, and that every single moment is now, and every single moment is happening right now. And well, how you can influence reality by becoming more aware of this.
So. Joe Dispenza, I love him so much. That guy's amazing. So is there anything else you'd like to add for our listeners?
Well, if the listeners are real big podcast fans, I'm a super big podcast fan, and I have a certain podcast that I love to listen to. And at the moment, I'm a really big fan of the Tim Ferriss show and his long interviews. And I would suggest anybody who has a bit of time and wants to be a bit inspired by people who are maybe working in their zone of excellence or genius in various fields, and understanding how they work and how they work through their limitations, to listen to the Tim Ferriss show. I think he does a really good job.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And I'm going to link through to all the Yoni website links and social pages and all that good stuff.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your wisdom with all of us. I really love we have so much in common. It's amazing. And hope to run into you.
You're in our office often, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to like have coffee.
Meet in real life, We'll definitely do that. So have a great sunny day.
Yeah, you too.
What an inspiring woman Mariah is. Love that we had so much in common as well. Definitely a kindred spirit. Hope to run into her at the Impact Hub sometime soon. It would be cool if you could follow them on Instagram and Facebook and let them know what you think. Instagram is @yoni.care. Facebook is @yoni, and check out their website as well, yoni.care. And also head on over to our Instagram and Facebook @ecofemmag and let us know what you think of this episode and about this topic and how important it is to have clean products of which we know what the ingredients are that are going into our most intimate zones of our entire body. Yes, it is an important topic, and menstruation and women's health should be everything but a taboo. So I love this episode so much. I love this topic so much. We've been talking about feminine health for quite some time now at Ecofeminist magazine because I felt like it's nice to have everything sort of combined so that we can delve deeper into the subject. And I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned some things and are also feeling empowered to make some changes if those are necessary. So thanks again for listening, and I hope to see you soon. Let us know what you think by using the hashtag #EcofemMag and catch us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube @EcofemMag. And did you like this episode? Then please consider leaving a rating and review on iTunes. It means the world to get your feedback. If you want to reach out for collaborations, then send an email to hi@ecofeminist.co. Want more? Check out articles about social change, environment, nature, business, feminism, female power, beauty, fashion, and travel at www.ecofeminist.co. Thank you for listening, and I hope to catch you there or in the next episode.